Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bruin Dash, the UCLA show on Dash Sports TV. My name is Sam Connon. I am joined once again by Jack Perez. Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sam. So excited to finally start talking about basketball. It's been a great year for UCLA already, and I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Absolutely. So, like Jack said, we are officially making the transition. We hinted a little bit towards it last week, but we are now going from a UCLA football show to a UCLA basketball show. If there are any football storylines, like with National Signing Day coming up at the beginning of February, or any transfers, stuff like that, we'll be talking about that as well. But from now on, it'll be pretty much UCLA basketball central. We'll be talking about it today and moving forward on Mondays. So stay tuned for the rest of those. And there's a lot to talk about right now this week, too. I mean, UCLA just had a road sweep over Arizona and Arizona State. They're looking at 9-2. They're 5-0, first in the Pac-12. So it's been a hot start for UCLA. We'll get to that. We'll get to the Chris Smith injury from a couple of weeks ago, how that will impact the team moving forward, how it's impacted them so far, and what that could mean for the scoring load. And then looking forward to the end of the year. Already, there's maybe 18 or so games left. And what are UCLA's chances in the Pac-12? On the grander scale in the tournament, the final standing. So we'll be breaking all of that down. You have any thoughts and you're watching live with us on Twitter, YouTube, anything, please leave your comments, questions, thoughts in the comments, and we'll get to as many as we can. So without further ado, Jack, I want you to give me your thoughts on this team. I know we got through non-conference. There were ups and downs. They were looking all right, but couldn't get the quality wins over Ohio State, San Diego State. Now that Pac-12 play started, 4 really close wins in a row against the Mountain Schools, Arizona schools. What does that tell you about this team that they're winning all of these tight games?
It means that they can finish. It means that they can really take a game and put it under their control. Even in those games, against Colorado and against Arizona this last week, they looked like, even though the score was close, they always knew they were going to win. They looked confident out there. Yeah, maybe they weren't getting these 10, 20-point leads consistently like you would expect from a top team. And maybe that's why they're not in the top 25 right now, because they're winning games, but they're winning them close. But at some point, you've got to be able to win those close games. And defensively, they've been shutting teams down in the second half. Against Arizona, it looked like there was a lot of things that could have gone wrong. Now, against teams like Arizona State, it looked like maybe mentally they were out of it. That was their first week where a team could prepare without Chris Smith. It looked like maybe Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell were trying to step up and do a little bit too much, but they got it done. And that's the most important thing, because when it comes down to these games in February, in March, and if they make it to an April, it's going to be close every single time out. It's going to be tough competition. And that's good that they're going through this Pac-12 gauntlet right now and really surviving. They're not winning big. And if they want to get ranked highly in the tournament, they're going to have to start winning some games bigger, starting with this weekend against the Washington schools, who aren't the greatest in the conference right now, especially University of Washington, not looking too good out there. But you have to win games first and foremost, and that's what Mick Cronin's team has been able to do so far.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, I feel like, because when you look at just a pure record, 9-2, 9 of their last 10, you think this team is dominating. You think they're playing great, and they are playing really well in some key areas, like you said, defensively, in crunch time. I get it, but this team could be so much better, and it's very easy to see where they could get better, and that's the thing that's maybe frustrating, because this team is not shooting the ball well at all. Johnny Juzang finally came alive scoring against Arizona, but still on the season, he's only shooting 30% from 3. He was heralded as the best shooter on the team. Chris Smith was shooting 50%, but he's gone. Tiger Campbell hasn't been able to step it up from deep, so 24%. Kynan's kind of fallen out of the rotation, and even if he is playing, he's only shooting 24% from deep. So really, you just have Hawkins shooting 46%. That's great. And Singleton shooting 47%. 2 of them are killing it from deep. Everyone else needs to step up from 3. The 3-point shooting needs to get better. And then also, UCLA should not have been as close as it was against Arizona. At least Arizona is a good team, and it was kind of a toss-up who was going to win. But once you got into the last minute of that game, you said, okay, wrap it up, it's over. But UCLA has a way of just making every single game come down to free throws at the last minute, blowing this play, blowing that play, allowing three. And you saw that in the Arizona State game, which shouldn't have gone to overtime because Tyger Campbell had the turnover. He tried hitting Jalen Hill on an alley-oop when he could have just hit the floater himself. And then allowing the three-pointer. The pass game against Arizona, even though it wasn't a foul, Johnny Juzang fouling a three-pointer, not ideal. So they win in crunch time while simultaneously not really playing that well in crunch time, which just goes to show how talented they are and how well coached they are and how much better they could get moving forward. Because, 9-2 is great. And maybe if they had played better down the stretch against Ohio State, they could have won that game. But it's harder to get better than a win because a win's a win. And they're going to have to play better in order to pick up wins against USC or Oregon moving forward.
Yeah, you focused a lot on that three-point shooting, and guys like Tyger Campbell, guys like Jaime Hawkins, they need to step up. But I've been looking a lot into the inside, the big men. Jalen Hill and Cody Riley both have improved this year, in my opinion, from last year. Jalen Hill looks like he can guard anyone on the floor. Cody Riley looks sweet in the post game, but it seems like they can never both have a good game. Mick Cronin refuses to put them on the floor together, probably for that reason. He doesn't want to go too big, and that's understandable. The game is moving more and more outside. But there's some nights where it seems like Jalen Hill has to be played every single minute because Cody Riley's either getting in foul trouble or he's getting dominated down low. Then other games, it looks like Cody Riley's doing everything he can to keep the Bruins in the game, whereas Jalen Hill's getting in foul trouble. Against Arizona, both got into foul trouble pretty early on, and Kenneth Nwuba had to come on for 9 minutes in that game because Mick Cronin wants to go with a big man. He doesn't want to go with a 5-out like he did against a San Diego State, against some of those teams early on when Jalen Hill was out. But if those two can put it together in the same game, UCLA is unstoppable, right? There's no way. They're probably two of the best big men in the conference. Maybe they're not the best, but they're two very solid guys. Jalen Hill could start on, I would say, any team in the conference, but he's behind Cody Riley because Mick Cronin likes to put Cody Riley in to start the game. Either one of them can come in and finish the games off. You could see sometimes Mick Cronin switching them back and forth in between possessions if there's a close game late on. If those guys both can step up and really show that they both deserve to start. Honestly, they both deserve to start, but if Mick Cronin's going to only put one in, they both need to step up when it's their time. Otherwise, Mick Cronin might need to start looking at 5-out situations where he puts Jaime Hawkins at the 5 because honestly, with his motor, he could do it. He could guard pretty much anyone, I think. He'll be a little overmatched against really tall guys, but at some point, Jalen Hill and Cody Riley can't be liabilities out there. They both need to show that they can put up big performances in the same game.
Well, I wouldn't say they need to go away from having a big man on the court. Having one of them have a good game is better than neither of them having a good game, so I'll take that. It is interesting, though. You look at their minutes per game. Obviously, minutes per game is a little different because Hill's played 2 fewer games. He missed the beginning. But Cody Riley, 21 minutes per game. Jalen Hill, 19. Not a coincidence that adds up to 40. That's pretty much. It's very simple. Either one is on the court at any given time. That changed a little bit with Kenny Nwuba, who played kind of down the stretch of the first half against Arizona and was really good on defense. He's kind of a non-factor on offense, whether it's in the post or setting screens. He doesn't really have the development that either Riley or Hill have. But on defense, he's pretty good. Hill I feel like is a favorite for Pac-12 sixth man of the year and defensive player of the year. So, for the defensive player of the year, he needs to step up in minutes a little bit, but that's great. Cody Riley is really developed in the post. You saw him against Arizona State when they started losing guys to fouls or just getting guys in foul trouble. Riley had the smarts. He said, well, I'll make him foul me again. I'll post up. I'll turn. I'll pump fake. I'll draw fouls, which is great because He's shooting 67% from the free throw line, which is not great, but for him, I mean, he was, I would say, good at free throws last year until that USC game where he hit the clutch ones that didn't end up mattering, but still, that's pretty decent. He and Hill are shooting in the high 60s for free throws. The two of them are very good. They're not the issue. Kenny Nwuba, it shows that, I mean, Mick Cronin was singing his praises, and he could defend anybody after the Arizona game. So between the three of them, you have a good big man rotation. Tiger Campbell is probably the best point guard in the Pac-12. He and McKinley Wright. Just Tiger's an amazing passer, and then he can turn it on like he did against Arizona and drop 20 points on 70% shooting. So what else do you want more from him? It's the wings. You need consistency. Jaime Jaquez kind of had a short leash in the first half against Arizona. It wasn't even necessarily foul trouble. It was just he wasn't playing up to Mick Cronin's standard or his own standard. So I think that he, for as much as a motor that he has and as good as he can be, I think he needs to kind of cement himself as the guy on this team in order to kind of solidify things outside of the point guard and the bigs. They need some consistency around the wing so they don't get stuck in these close games where they can't score the ball for 5-minute stretches.
Yeah, and I think there's one wing that you're kind of missing out on is that Jules Bernard, who's been starting now. He started a little bit early in the season, starting now that Chris Smith is out. He's got to step it up. I mean, he's been doing great so far, and honestly, he looks so much better than he did last year. There were times last year where it just looked like he had the ball, and everyone knew he was just going to drive, possibly get blocked or miss the shot. He looks a lot better this year. He looks a lot more confident from three. But if you have him and Johnny Juzang out there, defensively, they do not look good at all right now. They look like they could just get run by every single wing out there. Maybe Mick Cronin is going to move him to the point guard position when Tiger Campbell's going out. I know he said David Singleton earlier this year would handle a little bit of that, but it looked like Jules was kind of taking over as that backup point guard. If he can be a good backup point guard, that would help a lot with size and issues. If they're going to keep him on the wing, defensively, he needs to step up and take Chris Smith's role. I know he's not as long, and honestly, no one can completely replace Chris Smith's length on defense or his height as a 6'9" guard, but Jules Bernard is going to have to really just put his body on the line and show that he's willing to work for this team because they're going to go how he goes this year.
Yeah, I think Jules has been a real spark, a real surprise. It's been good to see. But we'll take that and transition into our next topic. Chris Smith, he tore his ACL New Year's Eve against Utah, a game they won, and that's tough. He was averaging 13 points per game, 6.5 rebounds. He was shooting 50% from three, like I said, 42 from two, and almost 80% from the free throw line. Not the numbers that we expected. We kind of expected a bit of a leap after he won Most Improved Player in the conference last year. He was kind of around his same production from last year, and then it just got taken away from him. It's really, really tough to see. It's tough to see for him. It's tough to see for this team, which is returning almost everyone. He's probably played his last game at UCLA. Mick Cronin kind of hinted towards that. I don't think anything's set in stone yet, but it's hard to see him go. We'll take a look at what it means on the court. We were hinting towards it a little bit there. Like we were saying, Jules Bernard getting more minutes. Jaime Jaquez trying to take on a different role in the offense. But before we get to that, Jack, you just want to talk about what this team will be missing without Chris Smith for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they're just missing that secondary ball handler. Like Tiger Campbell is going to obviously bring up the ball every single time, but it looked like the offense was really focused on getting Chris Smith the ball and letting him work. I mean, like I said, 6'9", but they list him as a guard. He's got pretty good handles. There were times earlier this year he looked a little bit shaky, but he was really growing into his own at the end of non-conference play, beginning conference play. He looked good in the Utah game, other than he looked like he got possibly a little banged up at the end of the first half, but then he came back out, was riding the bike, was playing, tore his knee right at the end of the game. That's a really tough loss. And obviously defensively, he was just long, man. You can't replace a guy that looks like he has an over 7-foot wingspan out on the court. I've never seen someone with arms that long since Kevin Durant played at Texas. And they're just going to miss that leadership too, because no matter what, it always seemed like Chris Smith would calm them down. Yes, Tiger's the one running the offense, but Chris Smith was the guy that could keep them calm, always keep them in the game no matter what. Even if they were down 10, 15 points, you thought, well, if Chris Smith can just explode here, he can give them an exhilarating dunk, he can make a huge play on defense, something that will get them back in this game and really get the Bruins back into the mindset of we're possibly going to win this game even when down. So there's no one on that team that could do that. Mick Cronin has said many times he's the only senior on the team. Now there's no seniors on the team. So that veteran leadership is going to have to fall to someone else.
See, I'll disagree with you there because just watching the Arizona State and Arizona games, Chris Smith, it will firstly travel with the team, which is good to see. I know he hasn't had the surgery yet, but him being with the team in not in uniform, but wearing the warm-ups, walking around, hyping guys up before the game, he was pretty much jumping on Jaime Jaquez's back after they beat Arizona. You really like to see.
Oops. Looks like we might have lost Sam there for a bit. I get what Sam's saying. Chris Smith is coming back into, he's still there. He's still with the team on the bench. He's still showing that he can be a guy that performs and really shows out. But if he's not there, if all of a sudden, oh, Sam's back. It looks like. Sam, sorry, you got cut off a little bit there. What were you saying?
I'm back. Yep. I don't know where I hopped out, but I was pretty much just saying, Chris Smith, you saw him at the Arizona getting hyped up, even though he wasn't playing. Pre-game, he was with the guys walking around, hyping them up. After the game, he was pretty much hopping on Jaime Jaquez's kind of game. He brings a lot of good chemistry, even when he's not to be where and when and how many people they can see. But it is really nice to see that Chris is still with the team in full.
Looks like Sam's having a little bit of internet problems over there. Well, let's just move on. We'll move on and see what the Bruins are going to do in the absence of Chris Smith. And really, it's kind of a pick your poison. If he does come back, if you get a guy like Jake Kyman who comes in and really is able to shoot the ball well, then you're fine. You can outscore teams with a Johnny Juzang, with Jake Kyman, with a Jules Bernard. All these guys are able to shoot the ball well and are able to at least put a body on the floor, but they can't really defend. On the defensive end, they're really kind of struggling out there. That's where a guy like Jalen Clark comes in. Jalen Clark, a freshman, has been hyped up by Mick Cronin heavily as this defensive stalwart. Yes, he's still got to learn a lot, and on offense, he's a non-factor. He's kind of like Kenneth Nwubu out there. If he's not getting the ball within a couple feet of the basket, he's probably not putting it in. He looks not great at threes, but on defense, he's a guy that really is picking it up, is really kind of coming in as the Chris Smith de facto. He's smaller, not as long, but when you got a guy like Jalen Clark out there who's just defensively so good, you put him out there with a Johnny Juzang, with a Jake Kyman, maybe your teams start to struggle a little bit if guys are able to hone in on defense on one of the two sides. If not, you've got a great opportunity to really put Jalen Clark on any of the best guards, because Tiger Campbell, while good, is 5'11", and that's being a little bit generous in my opinion. I don't know exactly how tall he is without his hair, but if you've got Jake Kyman, Johnny Juzang out there, you have basically no defense whatsoever. Same could kind of be said for Jules Bernard. And, getting Jalen Clark out there would really help on the defensive side of the ball. But if you try to put him out there and make him replace Chris Smith entirely, make him run the offense, make him try to hit threes at a consistent rate, that's not his game. That's not what he's known for. And it would take a year or two of development. And that's a big thing that Mick Cronin has been talking about, is that a guy like Jalen Clark isn't there yet. He will get there, but he isn't there yet. Looks like Sam is finally back with us. Sam, do you have any thoughts on who could replace Chris Smith, especially on the offense? Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to. I think I said it earlier. Kenny Wuba at the Cronin said he could guard anyone. I'm pretty sure he's talking about his defense. He's definitely a really good defender, but definitely not on the offensive end where Smith was yet. Wait, can you hear me?
Okay, looks like we lost Sam once again. As we're coming up to the 20-minute mark, though, we'll move on to our third topic. Hopefully, Sam's able to get back in, get a little bit better internet in a little bit. But we'll move on, talk about what are the Bruins' chances of winning the Pac-12. Currently in first place right now, 5-0 in conference. They had that game against Oregon postponed earlier in the year, so they didn't get a matchup with the one team that's currently ranked right now in the AP poll. They beat Colorado at home, beat Utah at home, beat both the Arizonas on the road. Got a win against Cal early on in December. So if UCLA has the chance to win the Pac-12, they must beat Oregon at least one of the next two games. They're going to play Oregon twice in 9 days. The game against Oregon got rescheduled up in Oregon on Tuesday. So they'll be playing against the Washingtons this next week, Oregon in Oregon, and then playing at the Bay Area schools on that Thursday, Saturday. If they want to win the Pac-12, they have to start there. If you don't beat Oregon, it's over. I mean, Oregon winning 2 games is probably a death sentence for UCLA. They can't really try to claw back out of those 2 games. And it's been said that they haven't really played any good competition so far. I disagree. Arizona State was looking like possibly one of the better teams in the conference. They were ranked highly in the coaches poll early on for the Pac-12. If a team like that gets hot at all, you're gonna be losing out on a lot. And I know UCLA already got a win against them, so that's a huge step for them. And they got the win on the road. So when Arizona State does come back to Bali, they have a chance to go 2-0 against arguably one of the best teams in the conference. But it's Oregon and UCLA at the moment. Oregon's only loss is to Colorado, and they've never beaten Colorado in Colorado. That just seems to be a place where they're cursed. They can't really do anything there. And if Oregon doesn't step up and win these games against UCLA, they probably are out of it too. There's no one else really in the conference that's competing at the same level at UCLA at the moment. You've got the Washingtons that have both been struggling. Washington State looked really good in non-conference, but that's non-conference. That doesn't mean anything for the Pac-12. Washington looks like they can't beat anyone. Stanford looks okay. Cal is bad. This is UCLA's year that they really need to take over. And honestly, if it's not Oregon, UCLA has a big chance to win it. Sam, it looks like maybe you're finally back. Do you have any thoughts on who UCLA's biggest competition in the Pac-12 might be?
Finally. Yeah, like you said, Oregon. Chris Duarte is so.
Oh, looks like Sam might have cut out again. Internet problems killing us all here down at UCLA. LA has been just a nightmare of internet and COVID at the moment. And I think that's a big thing that you need to address too, is what's going to happen if teams start to get hit with major COVID issues? Because it can happen. We've seen on the women's basketball side, UCLA personally hasn't been hit with COVID issues. They have injury problems right now, but they've had game after game canceled because of teams that had COVID issues. UCLA was supposed to play, it was Long Beach twice already this year, and twice the game got canceled. There was the Ohio State game that was supposed to be against Kentucky, but then, commissioners wanted to move it around, give UCLA Ohio State because the conference testing was a little bit closer. If you have a bunch of games like that, especially with Pac-12 play, especially with cases rising, you have to take every opportunity. I mean, the Oregon game was canceled because of the referees. One of the officials tested positive for COVID, and then they just basically got to cancel the game. They had no alternate plan there in place, which that's a failing on the Pac-12. There's been a lot of hate on the Pac-12 for referees, but that wasn't the referees' fault themselves. I mean, someone's going to get COVID. That's obviously impossible to keep everyone in a bubble. I mean, even over Christmas break, guys were able to go home. So we're going to see more games canceled. It's going to be a case of which team is lucky and doesn't have an outbreak. If there's an outbreak on basically any team, if Colorado has McKinley Wright get out for 2 weeks, if UCLA has Jaime Jaquez or Tiger Campbell leaving for 2 weeks, if an Arizona State has a guy like Josh Christopher that has to sit out for a couple weeks, that derails your season. So obviously there's no way around that. There's no way to really fix that. It looks like Sam is finally back, hopefully for good now.
Again.
Okay, it's looking better now. Sam, talk about which teams you're most scared of in the Pac-12, from a UCLA perspective.
I'm going to go with USC. They're just the most talented team in the conference, I would say, just in terms of like recruits and stars. Mobley's so good. Their front court is going to be very difficult. I think that's the game, or those two games that UCLA plays USC. That's going to be when Mick Cronin might be forced to play Hill and Riley together. We'll see. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But there's definitely an opportunity there. And also the past 2 years losing at USC, that stings. And I think it's obviously a crosstown rivalry, but with that Jordan Matthews shot that ended last season, maybe there'll be a little more fire for UCLA. But either way, going to the Galen Center is tough, and they're going to have to do that on February 6th. And then they'll be playing USC back at home on March 6th, assuming that the schedule goes as planned, like you were talking about. Who knows at this point? But Oregon is probably the biggest threat in terms of the standings and who is nationally higher ranked, and just competing from that standpoint. Winning at Colorado is tough. Doing a season sweep of both Arizona schools would be difficult. But USC is the reason that UCLA didn't win the Pac-12 last year. And I'm looking at that March 6th game. If UCLA can take care of business against Oregon, maybe sweep them or split with them, that final regular season game against USC, I want to say it decides the Pac-12. I don't know for sure. It would be really entertaining. It'd be fun at Pauley Pavilion. No fans, obviously, but still to have so much on the line in a crosstown rivalry. I can see it happening. The talent's there, the rivalry is there, the beef from last year. It's all there, and it's all building up. I just think USC is really good. UCLA is better coached. Nothing against Enfield, but he's not Mick Cronin. And USC has more talent. UCLA has more retained talent, but USC has the recruits. There's just so much going on in that matchup, and I'm really looking forward to both those games.
Yeah. Right here, as we have just a couple minutes left, I want to ask you we're 5 games in, so obviously we know UCLA is going to win at least 5 Pac-12 games this year. What's your final prediction for their conference record and for what place they end up finishing in the Pac-12?
Let's see. There are, 18 Pac-12 games?
20 this year.
Something like that.
20 games.
20? Oh, because they added, 20. I'll go. Let's go 15-5. So 10-5 from here on out. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm sticking with that, and I think that'll be enough to win the regular season conference title. They almost won it last year without starting 5-0. So you give them a 5-0 head start, I guess, on where they were last year when they lost to Stanford. They lost to USC. It was just I think they started 1-2 or 1-3 in conference. It was ugly. And the last time they started 5-0 in conference was 2012-13. Before that was something like 2003 or 4. It's been a while, and it obviously helps to have this head start. So I'm going to take UCLA over the field to win the Pac-12 regular season title, and 15 conference wins is what I'm looking at. How about you?
I think I'm going to go 16-4. And last year I predicted very early on in the conference season that UCLA would win the Pac-12 title, and I was 1 game off. But winning is a temporary fix. There's a lot of issues with this UCLA team, but winning is a good starting point. So I'm going to go 16-4, and I'm going to call the games. They're going to lose at Oregon. They're going to lose at USC, at home against Arizona State, and the game against Stanford. I believe they only play Stanford once this year. They're going to lose against Stanford. But I still think 16-4, that's enough to win the conference title by 1 game over Oregon.
Fair enough. I mean, yes, the Pac-12 is really talented this year. I know they're kind of being not fully held out of the rankings. Oregon's still in the 20s, but Colorado, USC, UCLA are all right on the edge. I know John Rothstein, he says that the Pac-12 is underrated. They have a lot of tournament teams, even if they're not an AP poll. The coaches poll is respecting them a lot more than the AP. I think that says a lot. So we're looking forward to it. A couple more weeks of this Pac-12 season. We're going to just enjoy what we can when we can at this point. So UCLA, they're playing Washington State on Thursday, an afternoon game at 2 p.m., and then Washington, the last place team in the conference, Saturday, also at 2 p.m. So watch those. We'll be back here on Monday of next week, same time, 4 p.m. Pacific time. So Jack, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Sam. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
All right, so you can follow me on Twitter at Sam Connon. You can follow Jack at Jack Perez. You can follow Dash Sports TV at Dash Sports TV on Twitter. So go follow me, follow Jack, follow us, and that's it. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.